wonderful place to do this track talk. I was hoping we'd get on here and be able to do it, but it's super exciting to be able to bring you track talk from the circuit. Let's talk a little bit about qualifying first, and let's try and contain one's thoughts because that was manic and hectic and crazy. So qualifying was wet, which obviously sets up a big mix before we even get started. Great qualifying for Zhou Guanyu, coming up 10th, or even getting into Q3. First time for him doing that. Finished in the top 10, coming home 9th for Alfa Romeo. Really good race for him. He did really well. He was complaining a little bit about pace and stuff, and a lack of pace. But to be fair, that car shouldn't have started where it did anyway. But a great weekend for him in terms of that. Also on qualifying, an amazing qualifying from Fernando Alonso, showing once again some speed in the wet. He's a quick pedaler. He's very good in diverse conditions, and he's very good dragging cars to places they probably shouldn't be. So a great job from him to start P2, splitting Verstappen on pole and Sainz for third. Leclerc bailed out of qualifying early due to having too many grip drops anyway, due to engine changes and parts changes, putting him at the back of the grid. Okay, let's talk about the race. It seemed the race was almost over before it began, when Alonso had a bit of a bad start and Verstappen disappeared off into the distance. Sainz took a few laps to get past Alonso, which looked like it was going to be Verstappen's for the taking. In the end it was, but we did have a late safety car that brought everyone together at the end there, and gave us some good racing for the end. A nice 10-lap dash. Little bit of something creative needed from Sainz there at the end to get the win, but also the top speed of that Red Bull really coming through to give them the advantage. Podium finish by Lewis Hamilton. Bit of a weird one for Mercedes. Russell tried something clever yesterday in qualifying. It was a hero or zero moment. It was either going to pay off and he was going to get pole, or unfortunately what was going to happen, and he spun off and didn't make it round a lap on those slick tyres yesterday. So a bit of a risk, but a risk worth taking. Both Mercedes coming home 3-4, again taking advantage of the fact that one of the Ferraris was a bit behind where it normally would be, and also one of the Red Bulls not finishing. Not quite sure what happened yet, but it was no power, so no power for Perez, putting him on, unable to finish the race with a DNF for Red Bull. It's a good finish for Ferrari with Leclerc P5 and Sainz P2, getting some points back in the constructors, but for sure Ferrari would have wanted Sainz ahead of Verstappen there with the fastest lap to take as many points as possible in the constructors and the drivers to help Leclerc. Obviously a great race by Leclerc, as I said, P5 for him. A really good drive back from the back of the grid. The car had the pace. It's arguably the quickest car on the grid until the Red Bull has it on the straights. So it's not surprising to have seen Leclerc come through the field. We're in a very crowded place right now. Main straight. Leclerc also had a bit of a fight with the Alpines, really struggled to get past Esteban Ocon in the middle section of the race. Really struggled to get past Ocon on some dead tyres. Only ended up doing one stop for Leclerc at the end there, which obviously helped that safety car at the end for Tsunoda. Unsure whether that was a brake fail. It looked like a brake fail. He came out the pits very, very hot and just didn't make the turn straight on into the barriers at T3, sorry. After their great start, I don't think Alpine really thought they were going to hang on to P2, so a 6-7 finish for them, pretty good. I think Alonso was trying to get the switch around at the end, so he ended ahead of Ocon, but in the end it was Ocon 6th, Alonso 7th. Then a good finish for Alfa Romeo with a 8th, 9th, Bottas ahead of Guanyu Zhou, and then Lance Stroll coming home 10th for his home Grand Prix. Not a great race for the other Canadian, Nicholas Latifi. We spent a lot of time at the back, not really doing a great deal apart from going further back off the back of the pack. Losses from the race, obviously Perez with that suspect engine failure. Real shame for him because he was doing well at the time. And then Schumacher lost for brake failures about 7 to 10 laps after that, which enabled Verstappen and Sainz to get their first stops done under VSC. Final loss was obviously Tsunoda there, bringing out the safety car at the end. That's kind of it as what happened. We're in a very crowded place on the pit straight here at the Canadian Grand Prix at the Circuit Villeneuve. But yeah, it was a good race in the end, really exciting. Very much on the edge of your seat, and although Sainz didn't manage to pull it off at the end, a good job all round. Next up we have Silverstone, which is our next sprint race. It'll be interesting to see if Latifi keeps hold of his Williams seat, as there is a lot of rumours churning and a lot of chitter about him being replaced by De Vries moving forwards after this race. Would have been very unfair to not let him race his home race, but from his performance today, it wouldn't be surprising to see him replaced ahead of the British Grand Prix, which is in 2 weeks' time. Maybe advantage Ferrari, but the weather is going to be anti-Ferrari in the fact that it will probably be cold, definitely be wet, definitely be windy. So we'll see who comes out on top there. But this was a good chip for Ferrari in terms of getting some points back in drivers, in terms of getting some points back in constructors as well. So Perez not finishing really helping them today, and a strong race from Sainz. It begs the question of what if it had been Leclerc versus Verstappen? Would he have tried something creative? It's difficult to tell because Sainz was on the fresher tyres, but at the same time, that straight line speed of the Red Bull was giving Verstappen that edge he needed down these long straights here at the Circuit Charles Villeneuve. So it's difficult to know whether or not Sainz could have tried something a bit creative. He was very close, but yeah, it's I don't know. It was a good race from Sainz. He did well. He could have done with getting Alonso off the start, but obviously that safety car at the end brought that gap back down. Ferrari did okay with the strategy. In fact, in terms of using the second VSC to make sure they didn't lose too much time to Verstappen on that first stop. That obviously worked in their favour, but in the same breath, that is motorsport. So it'll be interesting, again, as I said, to see who takes advantage. In terms of the track layout, it seems like it's a Ferrari track, but in terms of the weather, I think it may swing things in Red Bull's way. Leclerc has obviously now also got some new power unit stuff in his pool, so it should be a little while until he's got to take another penalty. It's another blowout engine for Perez, which could see him having to replace next race. We'll see how Red Bull try and deal with that. But that is it. The very crowded and busy main straight here at the Circuit Villeneuve. That's all I have for Track Talk today. Do let me know your thoughts and opinions on the race. Let me know everything, feelings about Silverstone, feelings about this race, how great it's been to be back here after a couple of years absence as well due to COVID. Let me know all that good stuff down in the comment below, and we shall continue the conversation there. But for now, let's see if I can do this one-handed. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. It's been an absolute blast as always. If you enjoyed this video, go show that like button some good old-fashioned love, and if you want to support the channel, go hit subscribe and ring that bell so you don't miss next time I upload a video. Stay awesome, and I will see you all in the next video. Salut Gilles.